Hi, Alicia Moulton with the Honey Company, and this video that you're watching now is part 2 in a 2-part series about catching a swarm in August. In part 1, we showed how to catch the swarm, and we dropped the swarm into a box, waited till it settled in, and then moved it. And now in this part, we're going to check the hive that the swarm came from. We're going to see if we can figure out why the hive swarmed.
We're assuming that the swarm we just caught, hopefully we caught it. We won't say so yet until they stay in the box throughout the day, but we're guessing that they came out of this hive. We don't know for sure. Let's open it up and see if we can see queen cells in there with some newly emerged or just about to emerge queens. So I'm going to put some smoke on the entrance. We'll pop the lid. Not a lot of bees in there, and there's quite a bit of space in between.
Well, I put 2 empty ones in there.
When did you do that?
Just before I tried to capture the swarm before.
Okay, good idea. So the honey that's in the swarm box right now just came out of here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea. So that'll entice them to stay in the box we just put them in. So, all right, so we can evaluate what's going on based on some empty frames here. So let's go straight to the bottom box and see what's going on there. Okay, right, so I can tell from here that they were probably pretty crowded. We've got a full box of honey down here, and you'll see they've been using every bit of available space here to put honey in. So they're probably a little bit too crowded. But let's take out a few frames, see if we can find queen cells. I got to decide which frame. There's most of the bees are over here, and it's going to be a sticky mess. I'll try and take out this frame over here, and that'll be a good place to start.
Why is that a good place to start?
Well, there's fewer bees on this frame here, and there's less comb that's attaching it to the box and the ears to the rests and to the frame next to it. So I didn't make a whole lot of mess there. So it's easy to take that frame out. Now it'll be easier to move this frame over into the empty space and take it out. That's a really good, solid, good looking pattern of brood right there, and with lots of honey around it. Same on the other side. And I'm going to take a quick look in those cells for larvae. Okay, so I'm seeing capped over brood, I'm seeing open brood, and I'm seeing very small larvae that's just a day or 2 old right there. That's all solid honey there with just a few cells of bees in it. So they're not terribly crowded because there's still some foundation here that they haven't built on. Sometimes it's frames in the bottom box, they do that. They just never do get around to it. They moved up instead of out. There's a little bit of pollen and solid honey there, another really good patch of brood. Usually by the time the queen's swarming, she's stopped laying eggs for a little while, so you won't see so much brood, young brood, open brood like we're seeing.
That brood is so pretty.
Right here. Here's a queen cell right here. If you can see that. So down here, this is drone brood. That's not a queen cell there.
Yeah, I looked at those and I wasn't quite sure what to do with those.
All right.
Because
So
they're
we have-
really bad in the top box.
Yeah. All right, so I'm looking inside this queen cell, and there's royal jelly. That they're still feeding the larvae in there. They haven't capped it over, so it hasn't emerged. There's not a queen that's just emerged out of there. All right, let's keep looking.
So are we going to leave that in there until we find the queen?
Well, yes. So yeah. So I don't want to destroy that queen cell because the queen would likely the old queen would likely be with the swarm that we just caught. So we don't want to destroy any queen cells in here because that would ruin this colony's chance to survive. They'd dwindle down without a queen. There's probably more than one queen cell in there though. Let's keep looking. I want to take these out carefully because we don't want to damage a queen cell if there is one. They need it. All right, so we have queen cells here, here. That looks like a cup that's being developed. Here's another queen cell over here. And around it we have drones. That's a drone cell. And then around that we have worker cells. So you can see the difference between a queen cell with drone cells around it, queen cell, drones all around it. All right, so we have found a queen cell on this frame, and then on this frame there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more queen cells on this one. I want to be careful not to damage those cells because that's going to result in the replacement queen for this hive. So I want to put them back in very slowly and carefully and gently. We don't really need to look through that further. That answers the question. I mean, we've got several queen cells. They're capped over. About the time that they cap over the queen cell, that's when the old queen takes off. So she's got several days of buffer time between when those new queens emerge, so she doesn't have to fight it out, right? So I'm pretty sure that that swarm came out of this colony, and everything looks good in there. I'll bet you they succeed in replacing that queen. The only challenge now will be for the bees, the bees that left home, to gather enough honey to prepare for the winter. If they just barely cap those over, it's going to be another week before the new queen emerges, and another week before she goes on a mating flight, and another week after that before she starts laying eggs again, before they'll start to consume more honey. In the meantime, if there's a good nectar flow on, they're going to gather a lot of honey rather than consume it. So even though we have a lot of brood that's going to emerge real soon, there won't be any more new bees immediately following that. So I would probably feed them both is what I would do. This is an occasion when you need to be prepared to feed bees, get some sugar syrup, and feed them now. Don't wait until October to get them up to speed.
And do these bees have enough room in their hive, or do they need more space even now?
They're probably okay for now because they're not really going to be increasing much without the queen in there. So if we took a few frames of honey out this and donated that to the swarm, then you'd have enough space in these 2 boxes. They'd be all right. So because they swarm this time of year, though, that kind of disappoints the beekeeper as far as a surplus of honey this year. We're not going to be able to take much honey from this one if we want to try to get both of those colonies through the winter.
So if there's 5 queen cells, will just one of them emerge, and what happens to the rest of them?
Right, so we've got at least 5 queen cells in there. One of the first queen out of there is going to go and kill the other ones. If they emerge at the same time, they'll fight it out. So there's only going to be 1 queen in here eventually in the end. So if it was earlier in the springtime, that would be a great opportunity to make a couple more splits. We've got several frames in there with queen cells on them. You could take out some more bees, you give each one of them a queen cell, and you could make some divides. This time of year, I don't think I'd recommend that. If we split this down further, they're not going to be able to gain enough momentum to get through the winter. They wouldn't have a very large cluster, so I wouldn't try to do that this time of year. And this time of year is August. It's August the 11th today. All right, so what I want to do, if I set this box back on just the way it was, I'm going to smash a lot of bees right there. So I'm going to take my smoker and I'll move these bees out of the way. They can finish cleaning up the honey that I've spilled, broke open the comb to there later. All right. Now we won't smash those bees. There's probably some down here too, so move the bees out of the way. All right, I'll put this box back on just like I had it. All right, we're gonna look in here and see what's going on in here. So we've got a little bit of row comb here. Instead of building on the foundation like this is right here, we've got a few rows of them building off the foundation.
What will you do?
I like to remove these. This has some drones in it. Here's what I like to do. If I'm not going to do a whole lot of damage, if some of this rogue comb were built and it had a bunch of worker larvae in it, I wouldn't want to waste that. But that's not that far along. It's not going to slow the bees down. I'll take and scrape that off, and I'll ask the bees nicely to start over.
Try again, bees.
You're doing a good job in there, bees, only let's have you fix that. That's got a lot of honey in it. We'll just leave the honey for them, right? We're not gonna waste that honey. I'll just do like that and they'll come and pick it up, okay? That'll get them started. Hopefully they'll start that. Now, if I were to put this back in the same place, they're just gonna do it again because the frame next to it has the other half of that rogue comb there. So I'm gonna take this frame out too and make them start over there. And I'll probably put this frame, it's just honey, I'll put it somewhere else in the hive. I'll flip it around or put it in a different position so they don't start in that same spot and do it again. All right, well, I'm gonna shake the bees off, right? So all that's drones right there, and we're not gonna really miss the drones. They play an important role in the hive, sure, but let's remove them. This is great to feed the chickens. Do you have some chickens you want to feed it to?
No, I have ducks though.
We'll take the inner cover here and we'll cut this off. And then the bees can start over and it'll be less trouble for the beekeeper next time we open up the hive. It's important to scrape that off down to the foundation. Otherwise, they'll start building off there again. So if we get it down to foundation, they'll start over. Now, when I put this back in, I'll put it someplace else instead of where it was. So the bees that are focused on that spot, doing that duty, they'll start a new program. All right, there's one more piece of rogue drone comb. So typically the bees will do this because they want a certain percentage of the bees in the hive to be drones, and they don't have space anywhere else. So they'll take and build off of the foundation and their own little patch of drones. The other side looks fine. That looks like the end of that problem. So if I place this frame next to a frame that has drawn comb next to it, then they're not likely to do it again. You can see down here, this is where that comb was. So if I put this frame back in there, they've got that space there, they're likely just to build rogue comb again.
Oh, so it bridged across those two frames.
It bridged across the frame. So the best idea would be to do is to turn it around. Now they won't do that. So the question is, this time of year, do we put another box on this? Well, we just lost 5 pounds of bees, and so they're not crowded now. And we've replaced the frames of honey that we took out to feed the swarm with some empty. So we've got about 5 frames of foundation for the bees to draw out, comb out on. So the answer would be no. Don't think, considering the time of year, you don't need another box on this hive. I took some of that comb we cut off and just smashed it there so the bees don't use it right where it is. They'll suck the honey out of that, clean all that up. That's a good thing to do with that rogue comb with honey. All right, now put the inner cover back on. This inner cover doesn't have a ventilation groove anywhere, so it doesn't matter which way it goes on. All right, then I put my telescopic top back on, and there's really not much to do in this colony now. I would get in there and look about 2 weeks from now to see if you've got eggs. That means the new queen has successfully mated. She's emerged from her cell, she's successfully mated, and is carrying on 2 weeks from now. Don't get in a panic if you don't see eggs in 2 weeks. It might take a little longer. Check it in 2 weeks and again in 3 weeks.